Weekly summary of the Presidency of the Libyan government. Following a heavy rainfall in Al Bayda and the movement of floods, Prime Minister Dr. Osama Hamad instructs all relevant authorities to monitor the situation, ensure it remains under control, and take all necessary measures to protect and rescue citizens. The Executive Director of the Fund of the Reconstruction of Derna and affected regions, Engineer Bilgassem Haftar, issues directive of the mobilization of all fund resources, especially flood control and suction equipment, from Derna to Al Bayda. This is respond to the significant rainfall in the region in the past hours, preparing for any emergencies. The Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energies sent a specialized technical team from the General Electricity Company of Libya to Nigeria as a part of the collaborative efforts between the two countries. The Ministry of Water Resources held a significant meeting today, chaired by Minister Engineer Mohammed Doma. The meeting, attended by department directors, discusses the future plan for 2024 and evaluates the work in the department. Progress is made in water resource management over the past year and various projects are reviewed. The Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Local Governance, Mr. Bubakr Zawi, discusses the contingency plan developed by Al Bayda Municipality to address floods and alleviate the traffic congestion issues. This is in addition to the current service conditions following the instruction of Prime Minister and Chairman of the High Committee on Emergencies and Rapid Response, Dr. Osama Hamad. The Ministry of Justice begins the distribution of the second batch of office and technical supplies to enhance workflow and improve service quality. Minister of African Affairs for the Libyan government, Mr. Isa Abdel-Majid, receives a phone call from the Political Affairs Secretary at the British Embassy in Libya, Mrs. Nicolette Baker. The discussion revolves around ways to stop illegal migration and Britain's role in the migration crisis across borders. In a joint coordination between Prime Minister of the Libyan government, Dr. Osama Hamad, and the Executive Director of the Fund for the Reconstruction of Derna and affected regions, Engineer Bilgassem Haftar, with the Reconstruction and Stability Committee led by Mr. Hatem Al-Araibi. The President of the Reconstruction and Stability Committee, along with the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Local Governance, Mr. Bubakr Zawi, and members of the Reconstruction and Stability Committee, Mr. Abdurrahman Zaid, and Mr. Saad Al-Zawi from the Fund of the Reconstruction of Derna and affected regions, and Mr. Faraj Abdul Rahim, Director of the General Service Company, and Colonel Yahya Lasayna, Commander of the 3rd Infantry Bridge of the Security Units of the Libyan Armed Forces, conducted an inspection visit to the Janine neighborhood in Al Bayda. The purpose was to discuss the establishment of drainage lines for the rainwater in valleys and damaged or collapsed roads in the neighborhood. Additionally, the visit addressed the maintenance of all damage in the city. The head of the General Authority for Endowments and Islamic Affairs, Mr. Atif Abdul Wahad, participates in monitoring meeting for the education sector of Benghazi, attended by the head of the Internal Security Apparatus, Major General Osama Idrisi, and the Education Monitor in Benghazi, Dr. Bulaid Jamal. Minister of Agriculture and Animal Wealth in the Libyan government, Engineer Yunus Bahassan, issues a circular to the coordinators to the agriculture and animal wealth sector and municipalities. It states that any disputes arising among citizens regarding agricultural land, whether subject to provision of Law Number 123 of 1970 or others, are considered civil disputes to be exclusively resolved by the judicial authorities. He urges them to adhere to and act accordingly. The Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energies, Dr. Awad Al-Badri, meets with the management of the Turkish company Kora, specialized in designing, supplying, and installing solar power station using photovoltaic panels. This is part of the ministry plan transition to the use of renewable energies. The Ministry of Water Resources enlists the support of leading Turkish company in the field of water engineering to assess the situation of existing and collapsed dams. This is a part of the ministry's effort to enhance water safety and ensure the sustainability of water infrastructure in the country. The Minister of Tourism in the Libyan government, Dr. Ali Qalma, participates alongside the Chief of Staff of the House of Representatives, Mr. Abdullah Al-Masri, in the opening of the exhibition organized by the Culture Council under the slogan, I Am Libya, I Am History. The exhibition took place at the Selfam Hall in Benghazi. The Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Local Governors and the head of the Inventory and Compensation Committee, Mr. Bubakr Zawi, along with the commander of the Derna Military Region, Major General Basit Boughreis, distribute the 4th batch of the compensation bond to 400 families affected by Hurricane Daniel in the city of Derna as a part of the assessment lists. The Ministry of Interior in the Libyan government launches an extensive traffic campaign in Benghazi in cooperation with the military police, the Directorate Support Apparatus, and the Central Support Administration. The campaign aims to support the traffic and licensing department in carrying out its duties. The Minister of African Affairs, Mr. Isa Abdel-Majid, meets in the Nigerian capital, Niamey, with the Ministers of Interior, Trade and Energy of Niger to discuss various security, economy, and energy-related issues. The Minister of State for Illegal Migration, Mr. Fathi Tabawi, holds a virtual meeting via Zoom with directors and heads of international organizations working in the field of illegal migration under the United Nations. This is part of the Ministry's action plan to regulate the work of international organizations. Prime Minister of the Libyan government, Dr. Osama Hamad, assigns the Deputy Minister for the Interior, Colonel Faraj Gaim, to monitor the movement of fuel and gas trucks from the Ras Al Mangar warehouse until they reach their designed distribution centers. Additionally, he is tasked with removing any non-compliant scales in accordance with the Cabinet Decision Number 20 of 2024. Prime Minister of the Libyan government, Dr. Osama Hamad, decides to impose a ban on the import of certain goods and commodities through the land border crossing. The Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energies in the Libyan government, Dr. Awad al-Badri, conducts a field tour with the transformer station of Al Salam neighborhood with a voltage of 220 and 30 kilovolts. This is part of the Ministry's action plan to monitor projects that have been stalled since 2011. The Minister of Interior, Major General Isam Bouzeriba, along with the Deputy Minister, Colonel Faraj Gaim, participates in the closing ceremony of the workshop organized by the General Directorate of Security Operations and the Director of Election Security and Protection. The workshop titled Election Security and Electoral Violence saw wide participation from the senior officers and officials in the Ministry of Interior, as well as representatives from the Child and Family Departments in the Eastern and Southern region, covering various relevant specialties.